Hello, everybody. We're back. Thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us for a few minutes. We have a very special. We call them special because there's a lot of questions about from the general public about what happens with the standards community and standards development process. And today we're going to hear from two very special speakers about what is going on and what advancements are being made in the standards community. Before I get to that, though, I do want to take a moment to go ahead and do some housekeeping. First of all, as you can see on this particular slide, our speakers are Raymond Yeung. He's the Standards Vice President for SMPTE. He's also with Amazon MGM Studios. And when we have our dear old friend Thomas Bause Mason, he's Director of Standards Development. We do need to thank our sponsors, AJA Video Systems. Wow. Decades of support to bring SMPTE webcast to the to its members and the industry, both the standard series but also the technology series. SMPTE will be at the NAB show. Oh, wait a minute. Who were those two speakers there? Oh, they're the same people who are going to be speaking today, Thomas and Raymond. They will be at NAB on Sunday, April 6th, demystifying standards, specifications, and open source efforts. There will be a handout, so you'll get this information in the handout, so you don't have to write it down. There's also the Future Cinema at NAB that SMPTE has developed. That's on Saturday, April 5th, 9:15 a.m. Pacific to 6 p.m. Again, that QR code will be in the handout, so you can use that to learn how to attend. And when you do register to attend, use that code that's in the lower right-hand corner. We do want to welcome Raymond, who is one of our speakers today, because he is the newly elected Standards Vice President. And working with him closely, in addition to Thomas, who is speaking today, are the Standards Directors Dean Bullock, LLamb, Florian Schleich, forgive me if I mispronounced your last name, and Fred Walls. And to learn about SMPTE membership, SMPTE memberships bring members a lot of value through standards, through educational offerings, through events, but the local sections, which if you're not familiar with that particular term, it's equivalent to a chapter. They help folks not only to advance technology, but individuals to advance their career. We have a course coming up, Understanding SMPTE 2110. The instructor-led course starts 15th of April. And again, that QR code will be available in the handout. Save the date. The SMPTE Media Technology Summit is in Pasadena this year, the 13th and the 16th of October, 2025. So put that in your calendars right now so that you have that allotted for the MTS, then I'll put something else in those dates. Our speakers are Raymond Yeung and Thomas Bause Mason. You can see them on the screen. And now I'm going to go away into the background, hide myself, and hand the floor over to Thomas and Raymond. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Hey, thank you, Joe, for the great introduction and the wealth of information. And again, just to echo Joe's, we are grateful that you spent time with us, and we have a lot to go over. And real quick on the agenda, my good friend Thomas is going to, and partner, he's going to start us off by giving background and context to the standards community. And so we'll go over the SC, Standards Community structures, and the technology committee meetings. And as Joe mentioned, this 2025 Media Technology Summit will be in Pasadena, and Thomas has some great info for you. And Also, we have exciting work going on in study groups and task force. And Thomas will be we have great info for us. And then I will go over the technology committee's quarterly reports. And I'm going to turn the mic over to Thomas to start with standards organization.
Yeah, thank you, Raymond, and thank you, Joel, for the introduction. Thank you for having me. And I want to start out a little bit with an overview of the SMPTE Standards organization, because I'm getting a few questions about, how are we structured, how are we organized, and so on. So I wanted to, just give you a little bit of an overview. Next slide, please. If you're joined SMPTE as a member, either as an individual member, and then in addition, you purchase the standards participation, or if you are a member or part of an organizational membership, then you become part of the what we call the Standards Community, or SC. That is really everybody who can be involved in standards development. Next click. We have a close committee which is governing that standards community that's called the Standards Committee, ST, and members of that committee are the SMPTE leadership, Raymond as the SVP, our past SVP, Sally Atori, and I think even the SMPTE president can join, and but also the TC chairs. We have 7 technology committees, so those TC chairs lead those technology committees. They're part of the ST. The standards directors, which are appointed by the standards vice president, guests also appointed and invited by the standards vice president, and then SMPTE staff, which includes me and my staff. We have 7 technology committees. We had 10 before. We kind of made it a little bit more efficient and boiled it down to 7. There's TC10E Essence, that's really image formats, color systems and compression, among others. Just as kind of a highlight of what this group is doing. TC27C Cinema, that really focuses on film, theatrical sound, and everything around digital cinema. We have TC30MR, metadata and registers, which is looking unsurprisingly at metadata and registers. That's all the metadata which is coming out of SMPTE documents. So if you're familiar with, for example, universal labels, that all plays a role in this metadata collection. And we have a metadata registry, which is available on SMPTE, on the SMPTE-ra.org site. 31FS, file formats and systems. There's a little typo in there. It shouldn't say film format, it should say file formats. And that's something like MXF, DPX, if you remember that. It's, I think, still widely used. But also the essence mapping into those file formats. So if we develop, for example, a compression format in 10E, then in 31FS, we would define an essence mapping, for example, into MXF. TC32NF, network and facilities architecture, looks at everything about media over IP, ST2110, ST2022, SDI, an industry standards omnipresent, timecode, ST12, and its documents, and then sync, SMPTE PTP. We have a profile of IEEE 1588 PTP, SMPTE PTP, 20 ST 2059, TC34CS, media systems control and services. A fairly new technology committee, looks at device control, APIs, media in the cloud, everything around cloud. There's a lot of effort going on at the moment, and that connects to an external group, which is the SMPTE Rapid Industry Solutions, OSA, stands for Open Services Alliance. If we go on, the last one, T335 PM, media packaging and interchange, at the moment is solely focused on IMF, the Interoperable Master Format, a very important framework for content distribution in the industry. So a very acute effort, which also touches at the cloud. And I would also mention that we just recently started some AI efforts, and they're in TC30MR because they're mainly concerned about metadatas, and there's some talk about registers for it. We're going to talk about it a little later. Moving on, next slide. Looking at the structure, how this is organized. So we have a technology committee, and then underneath the technology committee, we have a subgroup. We can have a subgroup, a working group. And then if there are multiple drafting groups which are looking at a similar technology topic, then they would fall under a working group. And each drafting group, study group, ad hoc group can work on one or many projects. I should point out here that in SMPTE, if we create a SMPTE engineering document, there's always a project associated to it. That's a one-to-one relationship. So we have a project, and to that is exactly one document associated to. And then subgroups can work on multiple of these documents. So for example, SMPTE ST2110 is worked on in a subgroup, in a working group, which has several subgroups, but one subgroup is just specifically concerned about ST2110. And that subgroup, a drafting group, is working on all the parts of ST2110. But you don't have to have a working group in between. You can have drafting and study groups and ad hoc groups right underneath TC, and then again, they work on one to many projects. Moving on. Just quickly, how do you join this technology committee, the standards community, in a physical way, in a online way? We have an association management tool, we call it. It's based on Microsoft 365 and Teams. We call it the SMPTE SKN. That's the SMPTE Knowledge Network, SMPTE Standards Knowledge Network, and that is really where we conduct all our work. I have a screenshot here on the right. That's my team's setup, and you can see all the different groups and how they are organized and sorted. I want to point out here that if you're joining SMPTE and get standards participation, and you will be added to the SKN as a member of the standards community, the login credentials is not the same as your membership credentials. So when you become a member, you probably used your corporate email with a username. Once you join the SKN, you get an email assigned to you with your name and a password, and then you can join via that. Also want to point out, if you have any question about the SKN and how it works, we do have an SKN user guide. I put the QR code there and the link, so you can go there and get more information. Next slide. SMPTE staff, standard staff, just really quickly. It's, I'm heading the standards department at SMPTE. So I'm the director of standards development. My email address is dir.standards@smpt.org. So if you have any questions about process, or if you're unsure about where to direct questions to, you can email me at dir.standards@smpt.org, and I'm going to help you there. I have two staff members. Ellen Ryan is taking care of publishing. She does everything in proofreading documents, formatting documents, updating our website, doing DOI registration. Each of our documents has a DOI as a persistent identifier. And she also takes care of some aspect of our SMPTE store. So she's really involved in every aspect of getting our documents out of the standards community. So if you have any questions, please email at standards-support@simply.org. That's a shared inbox. So if you email there, we all get the email, and then we can triage who is supposed to get the email and work on it. SKN, everything related to the Standards Knowledge Network, that's Scott Garcia. Same email address if you have issues about SKN, how to access it, or if you think there's a bug, or just in general, email Scott, again, via standards-support@simply.org. And in general, if you're not sure who to address it to, if you want to address publishing, or if you want to address the Standards Knowledge Network, just email standards-support and we take care of it. Next slide. Going into the standards TC meetings, you may know that we have quarterly meetings to talk about what's going on in the different TCs. So all the TCs are going to report on their projects, and then we have interesting conversations about issues in those different projects, and can advance the work of the standards community. As I said, they're quarterly. June is our next one. We just had one in March. That's this outcome report. June is our next one. That's the 1st to the 3rd hybrid in-person and remote in Tokyo, Japan at Imagica with the support of NHK. On the 1st, it's not going to be standards meetings. It's just going to be a visit to the NHK Open House, which is super interesting. So if you're interested in joining these standards meetings and you have time to come on the 1st, please join us for this tour at NHK. And then on the 2nd and 3rd, we're going to have our TC meetings. September 2025, those are 3 meetings, 3 meeting days, so to say. In September 2025, again, this will be a hybrid in-person remote meeting. We're planning to do it in Warsaw, Poland. We're still trying to locate a host where we can hold our meetings. So we have some work to do. We're planning to do it from the 17th to the 19th of September 2025, right after IBC. We usually leave one travel day in between, so you have time to get to the actual meetings. Again, 3 days, usually 2 days of meetings, and then one social day. December and March, in December 2025 and March 2026, it's going to be 4 days. It's going to be fully remote, only online, no in-person meetings. It's from the 8th to the 11th of December. That's still subject to change. We need to confirm those dates. And then March 2026 is from the 2nd to the 5th. Again, we need to look at these dates and make sure that we don't have any collisions with other industry events. And so to be confirmed. Next slide. The Tokyo TC meetings in June 2025, as I said, they're going to happen at Imagica Group, specifically Imagica Entertainment System. It's called, I think, EMS. And the address is there. And it's going to be 3 days. As I said, the social day with the NHK Open House on the 1st, and then 2nd and 3rd are going to be TC meetings where the TCs will report on their work. And then we hope to have evening events, as we usually have get-togethers with local SMPTE members and tours, maybe the facility tour of Imagica, which would be really interesting. Put a little picture up there. That's our meeting place, and where we're going to hold the meetings. And there are some recommendations for hotels on this slide. You can get the same information if you follow this QR code. The registration is actually open. Sorry, I should have updated that. It opened 2 weeks ago. So you can go via this QR code and register there. If you want to register as a guest, you're welcome to do so. It's free of cost, and you only have to accept the SMPTE Standards a policy for meeting attendance. All right, then let's look at the MTS. October 2025, 4 days confirmed. So it's going to be on the 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th of October 2025 in Pasadena, California. So we changed the meeting location. It's going to be at the Pasadena Convention Center. Again, the slide should have been updated. The call for papers, well, actually, that's still accurate. The call for papers hasn't really officially started yet. It will start soon, very soon. The QR code you see on this slide is brings you to where you can log a paper if you want to speak, and then you can register yourself there and see if your paper will be accepted. Registration is coming soon. If you go to https://summit.simte.org/2025, that's the official website for the event. And you can register there once it's available. Exhibit inquiry has started, so the booth selection already started. I heard there are still available slots, so if you if you're interested in that, again, go to that URL down there, and you can get information about what booth sizes are available and how you can register. Next slide. Yeah, so these are the topics of papers we're looking for. Obviously, you can come up with your own topic, and if you think that's relevant to media technology and all this. But as you can see, there's quite a spread of different topics you can pick from or partake in. Yeah, so the next one here is the next topic I want to talk about is a study group and a task force, which is active in SMPTE. These study groups and task force report right to ST, so they're not under any technology committee. So that's really the only opportunity where we can talk about it here or in our SC meetings during the DC meetings. So the first up is the study group on sustainability in media. That effort it was established late, I think, in 2024, and is ongoing since. The first step we really did was look at creating a survey to get responses in. The group is looking at improving the sustainability of media systems, and maybe also the systems they're interacting with. Obviously, an important topic in the world to look at sustainability and create systems which are sustainable. Group meets bi-weekly. At the moment, we're looking at the results of the survey. The survey was sent out first to organizations, which we thought would be a good input, could provide good input to our discussion. But we also added the survey, or a link to the survey, to the journal, and we're talking about it here in events like this. So there's the QR code up there. If you want to click on that, you can get to that survey, and then you can fill out the service and partake. It's anonymous, so you will not disclose your identity, but you can, if you want to be contacted, please add your contact information, and we get back to you. And you can partake as many times as you want. So if you're submitting one idea and then, a week later you have another idea, you can submit another idea. So there's no limit on how many times you can submit ideas. So really looking for participation in this effort. And then based on that, we're going to start, developing a report, and the report will have recommendations on sustainability in standards. So there's also the URL down there to the SurveyMonkey survey. You can follow that as well. Next slide. That's the task force on AI in media. That's a very relevant topic, which was actually established quite a while ago in 2020. It's a joint task force between the ETC and SMPTE, and then EBU is providing lots of input as well. So that's important. It's a multiple organization effort, so which we really like, because SMPTE does not want to work in isolation. We really want to be tied into an industry discussion. This is really about discussing AI media and then create recommendations for standardization. What can we do in that area? It's a very fresh topic, very new topic. It's evolving very rapidly. We published one report in 2024. That's SMPTE ER 1010:2023. And it was reviewed by industry experts. And I put down on the bottom of the slide, there is a URL where you can get that report, follow that, and then you can download the report. The work is continuing and to update the first report and get more up-to-date information into it. We talked about this task force report to be almost like a living document, which has to be continually updated as the industry progresses in AI. Topics currently are the Model Context Protocol, MCP, seems to be a very hip topic at the moment, and it's really looking at how to give AI models access to other data sources and also services to just integrate AI into a system in a better way. So that's one. AI security is a big topic. There's a management standard from ISO that's being discussed. That's ISO IEC 42001. And then generative AI models, there's another discussion as well. And I think the task force actually just started their meeting today. So they're meeting, I think, every month. And the next meeting is now. So you probably can't join that unless you leave here. Out of the task force on AI and media came 3 standards projects. I think Raymond is going to talk a little bit more about that. That's AI model metadata and creation of a centralized model registry. As you may know, there are many models out there now. There's in the thousands, and it's quite mind-blowing. And there's this is really an effort to standardize the metadata on those models, but also define a central register, which could be on the SMPTE website, where media-specific models can be registered. And then the next effort is metadata generated by LLMs. So often, if you do your prompt to an AI, you get information back. And that's really kind of like, how can we standardize on that metadata in a contextual and versioning sense? Embeddings as metadata, embeddings are important for search. Sometimes if you search for related topics, you get very different results. These embeddings are putting specific metadata that can be contextual or non-human readable. Usually it's a vector that can be embedded into as metadata. And then if there's a search with help of this embedded metadata, you improve your search, for example. So it's also a very interesting topic. 30MR, TC 30MR is the home of all 3 of these. So if you're an SKN member, join 30MR and join these efforts and participate. Next slide. Okay, that was me. I hope I did it in time, Raymond, and I didn't steal too much time. But we can have questions, I think, afterwards about everything.
Yes, thank you, Thomas. And that was a great, very concise on some very interesting topics. Thank you. And I'll follow up with highlights from our TC quarterly meetings. So the last Technology Committee quarterly meetings was March 3 to 6, and Thomas mentioned earlier. And thanks to the explanation of 7 technology committees, and basically there are 3 different areas: content creation, which is Essence 10E, application cinema 27C, and the rest is grouped under infrastructure and media management. And so that's thanks, Thomas, for covering that. And the outcome report is in preparation. In fact, I will be working hard on that with Thomas right after this call. And next meeting, we're scheduled for June 1st to 3rd. Very exciting. And just would like to remind everyone that these technology committee meetings are open to the public, so anyone can join. And so we will be grateful for your interest. Please join us. And just take a peek into, for the ones in the audience who is not familiar with such meetings, and just want to quickly flash a typical agenda. And these meetings are due process meetings, so they need quorum. So it's 1/3 of the voting members, and for each technology committee, and we approve agenda and previous minutes and administrative items, and we review ballots and publication status, and the bulk of the work is in project reports. We go over all the projects that is happening in the TCs, and then we look at new business, and then also review existing documents and see if they updates needed, and any liaisons with other organizations, and plan on the next meetings. And just want to point out that this looks very cut and dry and sounds boring, but doesn't have to be. And we can have lively discussions, especially other and new businesses. And if you're planning to attend, feel free to reach out to the TC or Thomas or myself. We'll give you a contact info, and all topics are of interest. So I'm going to quickly give highlights on the each TC from the last meeting, and I should give a disclaimer that I am not an expert on all the subjects, and so I apologize if I'm missing something, but feel free to ask, and also contact us. And to give a quick run through of the 7 TCs, I will be I could be biased, so please don't take my word for it. Look it up yourself, and we will assist you with that. Okay, TC10E, Essence. This is for content creations. There are total 21 projects that these are all approximate numbers. They the configuration is very dynamic, and we have 10 revisions, and this TC has 200 members. 36 P members are called participating members, also voting members. And just a reminder, we need 1/3 of the P members' presence to establish quorum for each meetings. So in terms of highlights, very first one is the Common Nut format. This recently is available as a public CD, a public committee draft. And that basically has gone through the first committee review, received comments, and all the comments are addressed. And then the drafting group and the technology committee, and of course with the SVP's approval, they are available to the public on GitHub. So please go check it out. This is a LUT format from the Academy. In fact, this is a very interesting, is an open source, came from an open source project from the Academy. This is the Oscars, people. And next up, we have 2 new projects just ramping up. 2094 Suite. This is the dynamic metadata for color volume transforms. And primarily, this is looking at color mapping for HDR contents. And the 2 new projects, Part 50 and 60s, are both focused on mapping of HDR content servicing SDR devices, or devices that are not systems that are not capable of the huge dynamic range that the capture or the mastering, or the broadcast system is intended for. And then we have a couple of revisions. VC3 basically is the Avid DNX, and that's, of course, is a very interesting codex. It's for editorials and a lot of content interchange. And finally, in the highlight, there's another 2 new projects, 2144-1 and -10. They're called Visible Difference Predictors. And these projects were proposed by Meta and appears to be has a great potential to be a very good metrics for volumetric for the goggles displays, and also applicable for 2-dimensional or stereoscopic images. And the standards are layered. So the part 1 is a more generic metric, and part 10 is focused on color. And this is also a open source project that is coming into SMPTE. And just wanted to call your attention for more information. There's the link in GitHub also. And if I may, I would like to continue on to run through the next couple of TC highlights before we take questions. Or maybe I should do a quick check if there are any. Joe, are there any questions posted yet?
We got nothing.
Okay. Well, let's continue on. TC27C, chaired by CJ Flynn and Steve Lamb. And this TC is focused on cinema, anything from film to immersive audio sound, and anything digital cinema especially. And a lot of these standards are in ISO also. So we currently have 7 active projects, 1 revision, and this TC has 214 members, 42 voting members. And 1 publication came to our attention. This is called the Cinema Distribution Master Pack Image. This is for a distribution master, typically they are like large sequences of TIFF or DPX images and individually, and however they are typically not compressed, and maybe in TIFF there are compressions, but typically they're not compressed 16-bit masters, though it's very bulky. And this pack image is basically utilizing the latest high throughput J2K for compression. So we would imagine saving of storage for these theatric masters. 2-3 hours movies. The movie seems to be getting longer. And some highlights in development. There's a engineering guideline, 428- part 23, mastering guideline for Japanese time text, DCDM. And this is currently in public committee draft, also available to the public on GitHub. And there's also an effort in minimal time text XML requirements, and very, very active work in B-chain. That's basically the reproduction in theater characteristics and expectations. It's a very in-depth study going on. And there's also an effort in collecting and for archival purpose, the origins of digital cinema documentations. And they are preparing a final report for that. Right, moving to TC30MR. This TC is chaired by Bill Redmond. And there are 12 projects, 6 revisions. This TC has 127 members, 17 voting members. And this group focuses on metadata and registries. And as Thomas reported earlier, there's a task force on AI and media. And there are 3 standards project that is ongoing. As mentioned, just a recap. First one is metadata generated by LLMs, and And this effort and just got started. The proponents are AMD and the EBU, and of course, everyone is most welcome. And embeddings as metadata, and that's also could use standardization. And currently, the vector embeddings has various representations, and this is an effort to provide guidance on that for interchange interoperating purpose. And also, finally, 2143 is AI model metadata and centralized model registry. So it's we'll put Thomas to work very quickly and to standardize, to establish registry. And then we have a revision on RP205. This is the UMIT applications. And also there's a study group working on utilizing UUID for file naming purpose. And then another review, this is a perpetual revision, the ST2123. This is a cover document for the metadata registers releases. So these are the UL that are basically, they are tags, labels for the MXF files. And there are in total 5 registers. And so this is the latest version is getting very close to publication, and will quickly follow by a release of the registers. And parallel to that, 4 out of the 5 register structures dictionaries are being revised, and ST335s are the elements, 395 are the groups, and 400 are the universal labels, and 2003 are the types. It's like data structure fundamentals. Moving along, TC31FS, and this is a group focused on file formats and systems. The chair is Dr. Wolfgang Ruppel. And this group has 21 projects, 7 revisions, again, approximately, and 165 members, has 33 voting members. And one publication, this is a revision, I believe, is a 381-3, published early in the year, mapping ABC streams into the MXF generic container. And some highlights, and this technology committee has plenty of action, so it takes 2 pages to fit. And we have a brand new RDD. I think the RDDs are register disclosure documents, and typically they could be proprietary technology that the property owner wish to publish through SMPTE. And so the first one is number 60, is mapping immersive audio bitstream into the MXF generic container for repository file formats for broadcast. And this came from Adobe Laboratories. And then 61 is mapping ARI core bitstreams into the MXF generic container. And this originated from ARI, the camera manufacturer. This be the future version of the camera file. And then 2131 is mapping audio definition model, ADM, and other audio metadata riff chunks to MXF. And this work is ongoing, is heading towards publication. And then we have the ST2140-1. It's a descriptive metadata scheme for identity and integrity. Currently, this group, drafting group, is actively working with external standards organizations in terms of studying content identity, and especially the C2PA, correlation of content for content provenance and authenticity, to work out how to encode and carry such information. And continuing on, for file formats, there's also AXF. This is the archive exchange format. Document suite, and there's a part 1 document under revision, and part 2 is being developed, and open source project is also will be providing material for SMPTE. And then the DPX standards for HDR is also being revised, and then there is actually we'll come back to that. This 2140 is both 2140 and 2134 are time labeled projects, and TLX is time label effort in 32NF, which we're coming up next, and we'll go a little bit deeper into that. And TLC is a compatible time label, is also applicable and associated with the TLX effort. And 2140-4, and the first 3 part define data structures, and part 4 is in 31FS to figure out, to work on KLV encoding, and in MXF, mapping the MXF. And finally, 2073-10 is VC5, which originated from Cineform and then GoPro, and mapping into MXF is a revision project. Okay, next up, as promised, 32NF. This is Network Facility Infrastructure, chaired by Mr. Dean Bullock and Mr. MXF, Bruce Devlin. I call him Master Bruce. And so this group has 35 projects, 6 revisions, and 213 members, 34 voting members. And exciting highlights, ST2139 is a USB-C signal sync alternate mode. And this one is in public committee draft, available on GitHub. And this project came from Apple, the #1 proponent, among others. And this is a standards to establish synchronization of devices over USB-C. And yeah, please look into this if you are manufacturing or user of USB-C. And then as Thomas mentioned earlier, there is a drafting group under a study group specialized and focused on the 2110 suite for professional media over managed IP networks. And the chair of this group are Rick Ackermans. They are very active. They meet bi-weekly to go over all the 2110 suites. So far, I've counted -10, -20, and 21 are video, and 20 series are video, and there's 30. The 30 series is audio, and 40 series is data, such as auxiliary data. And this group is now doing a lot of work on recommended practice and engineering guideline in terms of implementation, interoperability. And there's also a major effort going on in establishing protocol interoperability check sheets, PICS, P-I-C-S. And there's a set of RP that is moving along towards publication. And then next page, continuing, as mentioned in the previous TC31FS, which has joint development with this working group, time label and synchronization, chaired by John Snow. And Thomas also mentioned earlier that there's a precision time protocol, PTP, and that's the 2059 suite. And there are ongoing work with 2059-1 and 2, and then engineering guideline and recommended practices. And then 2120 is a suite for extensible time label, nicknamed TLX. And part 1 establishes the data structure, and then there are various data items, numerous of them, that is key to label time and within good information for production and all the way to archivals. And then 2120-3 are the profiles. And then 2120-4, packaging the data structure in KLRV, which is ST336 in MXF carriage. It's a joint project with TC31FS. So next group is the, as Thomas mentioned earlier, is Media System Control and Services. Is a relatively new PC. And this one has 14 projects, 1 revision, 148 members, 15 voting members. The highlights are in public committee draft. There's an IMF registration API and 2125. And 2126, microservice status reporting and loggings are also actively being worked on. And 2133, job processing architecture, that's also in public committee draft, available on GitHub, on the link. And SMPTE has a rapid industry solution, RIS, and there's a group covering the Open Services Alliance, OSA, and Chris Lennon is leading that effort. And coming from the this RIS effort, there's a suite of documents coming from the Katana project, and those are all microservices protocol related, and they are just getting started. And finally, last but not least, the BXF is the broadcast exchange format. And this is basically an XML schema that the broadcast equipment can interchange to inform each other of what's coming and what to expect. And there's no current activity, but I learned that at NAB, they will celebrate their 20th anniversary. And if you would like to find out more about this, please contact us. And I'm going to just quickly move through 35 p.m. It should hopefully give us less than 5 minutes for final question and comments. So this is Media Packaging and Interchange, TC35 p.m., chaired by Joanne Kim. Has 13 projects, 3 revision, 169 members, and 27 voting members. And currently actively under revision is application 2 extended. And this is a packaging specification framework for J2K Essence in MXF. And then the next revision project is the immersive audio bitstream level 0 plugin. And those are rapidly moving along and towards publication, towards balloting. And then we have a public committee draft of VC5. Just a reminder, this is originated from image compression algorithm, originated from Cineform and then GoPro. And please have a look. It's been in public committee draft. And next step would be going to ballot with this application. And then ADM also will, and I think part 204, the IMF audio with ADM metadata plugin has been in public CD and the document is being prepared for balloting. And very actively being worked on, actually, behind the scene is the event-based text-based metadata. Imagine we'll have time text that is not time text. That means we can carry any event-based metadata in this track. And currently the focus, the BBC and is the leading proponent among others. And they are very, very rapidly working with the EBU QC effort. And again, more information could be provided. And then finally, OPL, this is called Output Profile List. And there's a revision project to revise image macros, adding color space transformed and LUT and all that. into the standards, hopefully to establish template for image and sound and data processing framework for the IMF framework. And then we have additional macros, and the essence type transform is a set of additional macros or processors to transform essence, image, sound, or data. And finally, virtual track fingerprint is being developed. This document should be heading to public committee draft shortly. And this is a technique to basically compute a code or fingerprint or hash for a virtual track, so that when we have compositions in these packages, and as long as the virtual tracks checks out, and hopefully we can bypass the process of QCing, which could be costly and time consuming. So that concludes the review of the TC. We can go straight into Q&A. Thank you. And this is how you find us. Standards support, that you'll reach Thomas and svp@simpe.org. And I will be, I managed to get my inbox down to 2,300 or 2,555 emails. So, but I will put you on the top of my list. Thank you.
I have a couple of, I guess, what you would consider fundamental standards-related questions for people who are perhaps new to the standards development process. You mentioned with SD2139, the USB-C signal sync alternate model, that it was a public CD. What's the process for public CD? What does that mean?
Yeah, Raymond, do you want to go, or I'm happy to.
Go ahead, Thomas. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so we follow this approval process of our documents, and there has been a long-standing criticism that standards development and going through this process takes a long time. There are many reasons why that is the case, right? So it's not necessarily the process fault, and unfortunately, we're in a situation where we can't alter the process because we are following a process which is given to us by our national standards body, which is ANSI, and which is followed in every regular standards development organization. But we can modify this in a way that we make it more efficient, more agile, and the public CD is one way to do it. After a working draft comes to the technology committee for the approval, it goes through an initial review, 2 weeks, which is called a pre-FCD, pre-final committee draft review. After that is done and comments out of that review are being addressed, you can choose to make this committee draft, the working draft becomes a committee draft. You can make this committee draft public. That means anybody can see this committee draft and can implement what we're proposing, and can come back to us to give us feedback so that we can improve. So we can iterate through this public CD process. So if we get comments back, we go back into a review, apply changes, update the public committee draft, and then people can apply it again, implement it, talk about it, give us feedback. The tool we're using to do that, and Raymond always it was so good to give us pointers to that, is GitHub. So the document, which is a PDF or an HTML, depending on what you're doing in terms of editing these documents, they're available in these on GitHub as what we call, or what GitHub calls, a repository for that document. And so anybody can go to that repository, look at the document, adopt the document, implement it into their solution, come back to us with feedback, and log that in the same repository on what's called an issue tracker. And then the people in SMPTE who are working on this document can take those issues and incorporate them into the document. It's really kind of an early access to a standards document, and then iterate through it to improve it. And once we get to a point where it's stable enough, we continue with our standards process. But by that time, the document is probably so good that there's very little difference between what at the end comes out as an official standards simply engineering document and between the PCD, right? So the whole point is really kind of be more agile and give early access to what we're developing.
Excellent. Thank you. It's a wonderful description or explanation. And I noticed the Studio Video over IP group has the SD 2110 standards listed. Are they all under revision, or what's the status there? Because in the broadcast industry, obviously SD 2110 is quite a big deal.
Yeah, most of them are revised. They were actually revised last year. So there's a revision out there now. There are just a few, and I think -30 was one of them. There are just a few documents which are still need to be revised. There was some hesitation to doing the revision. I think that's in the work now. I should say, and that's maybe a message in general to our audience here, if your SMPTE comes alive through its members. So we need members to help us create these documents. And so if there is not a particular interest on revising a document and there are no members who were willing to do the revision, then you will not have a revision, right? So it really depends on simply standards. As you saw, we're a very small team. We are 3 people, so we don't drive these projects. So members have to come and drive it, and some of these revision need support from members, and then we can do the revision. So there are a couple of documents which haven't been revised yet. I think there's some work to be done, and they're trying to get people now on that. And yeah, but most of them were revised last year, and the next revision of those documents, if there aren't any large issues, is going to be in 5 years.
Very good. Obviously, the standards community is doing a lot of work. It has changed over the last couple of years, the last several years, it sounds like, to make it faster. And I do appreciate, as I'm sure our audience does, I appreciate your time and explanation for what the different committees are working on. There are no questions in the queue, so do you have any final closing comments, any message that you want to give to the folks that are either here live or watching the on-demand video?
Well, my message would be join us, right? That's kind of the obvious message. We really rely on the membership to bring SMPTE to life, to bring our efforts alive, and we need your input. Don't hesitate, don't be intimidated. It's not as bad as you think in terms of complexity and all this. So I think, please join us.
Great. Well, Raymond?
Go ahead. I just want to, thank you, Thomas. Yeah, is great advice and great question, Joe, also, especially for the public committee draft explanation, because that's where I think, as the world is evolved around us, and with a lot of new topics, and as you can see, we have 7 magnificent technology committees, but we are not limited by that. And with new topics such as AI, we can, again, as Thomas emphasized, we are driven by membership interest, and we can always expand our horizon, and we're not afraid to make changes. And the public CD is a great touch point, between SMPTE and the open source community. And I've been learning a great deal from the open source community through the public CD process. Thank you. And thanks everyone for taking the time to be with us.
Perfect.
Hope
Raymond
to see
Thomas.
you all at NAB. Yes.
Yes. And NAB's next week, right?
Yeah. Actually started it.
What? When did that happen? It happened quickly. Anyway, Raymond Thomas, thank you for spending the time. I'd also like to thank our guests for sticking with us to the end. There will be a PDF handout that will be sent to you with the slides, and the on-demand video will be available on the SMPTE website within a day or so. So thank you very much. Take care. Go to NAB and watch Raymond and Thomas speak again. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.